Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Valiant, staring at the view screen that showed empty space. Empty, but not really empty. His sensors told him something massive was hiding just beyond Pluto, something that should not be there. "Admiral, we're getting a signal," said Captain Lisa Hayes from her station. Her voice was tight with worry. "It's coming from the outer system. The pattern is not human." Morrison felt his stomach drop. For 300 years, humans had looked for signs of alien life. They had searched every planet, every moon, every rock floating in space. They had found nothing. Now it seemed the aliens had found them first. "Put it on screen," Morrison ordered. The view screen changed. A face appeared that made everyone on the bridge take a step back. It was tall and thin, covered in golden scales that caught the light. Its eyes were amber-colored and cold as winter ice. When it spoke, its voice was deep and made the ship's hull vibrate. "I am Ambassador Zethka of the Hegemony Empire," the creature said. Its mouth moved wrong, showing teeth like broken glass. "Your species has been discovered. Your world has been judged. Your fate has been decided." Morrison stepped forward, his hands behind his back to hide how they shook. "This is Admiral Jake Morrison of the United Earth Space Forces. You're in human space. State your business." The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "Human space? Child, there is no human space. There is only imperial space and worlds that have not yet been claimed. Today, your world joins the Empire." On her station, Captain Hayes was reading numbers that made her face go white. She looked at Morrison and held up 7 fingers, then pointed at her screen. Morrison's blood turned to ice. 7,000 ships. The alien had brought 7,000 ships. "You will listen," Zethka continued. "Your world has 7 rotations to surrender. You will destroy all weapons. You will disband all military forces. You will kneel before the Empire and accept your place as servants. This is the only offer you will receive." Morrison looked around his bridge. His crew was scared. He was scared too. But he was also angry. Angrier than he had ever been in his 50 years of life. "And if we refuse?" Morrison asked. "Then your world burns," Zethka said simply. "Your cities become ash. Your people become memories. Your sun becomes your grave marker. This is the way of the Empire. We have done this to 1,000 worlds. Yours will not be different." The screen went black. For long seconds, nobody spoke. The only sound was the hum of the ship's engines and the quiet beeping of computers. 7,000 ships, Hayes whispered. "Admiral, our entire fleet has 847 ships. Their smallest vessel is 3 times bigger than our largest." Morrison walked to his command chair but did not sit. His mind was racing. 7,000 ships. Technology that made human weapons look like stone axes. An enemy that had conquered 1,000 worlds. "Get me President Webb," Morrison said. "Emergency channel. Full encryption." The communication took 3 minutes to connect. President Marcus Webb appeared on a smaller screen, his face drawn with exhaustion. Behind him, Morrison could see other government officials rushing around. "Jake," Webb said, "please tell me you have good news." "No, sir," Morrison replied. "The aliens are real. They're here. And they've given us 7 days to surrender or they'll destroy Earth." Webb closed his eyes for a moment. "How many ships?" 7,000. Maybe more. Our sensors can't get accurate readings through whatever technology they're using to hide. "Options?" Morrison looked at his tactical display. Red dots surrounded the solar system like a disease. "Limited, sir. We could try to negotiate for more time. We could try to evacuate some population to the colonies or what? Or we could fight." Webb was quiet for a long time. "Jake, you've seen the numbers. This isn't David and Goliath. This is David and a mountain." "Yes, sir, but sometimes mountains can be moved." Another voice came from off-screen. "Admiral Morrison, this is Dr. Kevin Ross from the Prometheus Research Station." Morrison knew the name. Ross was one of Earth's top scientists, working on projects so secret that even Morrison didn't know the details. "Doctor?" Admiral, how long did they give us? 7 days. That might be enough. Ross stepped into view. He was a thin man with wild gray hair and eyes that seemed to burn with inner fire. Admiral President Webb, what I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest levels. We've been working on something that might give us a chance. Webb leaned forward. What kind of something? We call it the Solar Hammer Project. For the past 5 years, we've been studying ways to manipulate stellar activity. We've built stations throughout the inner solar system hidden from normal sensors. They can create focused gravitational pulses. Morrison felt a chill. Focused? On what? On the sun, Admiral. We can trigger controlled solar flares. Massive ones. Directed ones. The bridge fell silent. Hayes turned from her station, her eyes wide. Doctor, are you talking about weaponizing our own star? In simple terms, yes. We can turn the sun into the biggest gun in the solar system. Webb rubbed his forehead. The risks? Significant. If we miscalculate, we could damage Earth's atmosphere, or worse. But Admiral, the alternative is extinction. Morrison looked at the tactical display again. 7,000 enemy ships. Then he looked at the representation of the sun at the center of the system. Humanity's star. Their light. Their warmth. Their life. Maybe their weapon. Doctor, can your system target specific areas of space? Within acceptable margins, yes. Why? Morrison smiled for the first time since the aliens had made contact. Because I want to send these invaders a message. He turned to his communications officer. Open a channel to the alien fleet. All frequencies. Maximum power. Channel open. Sir? Morrison straightened his uniform and looked directly into the camera. When he spoke, his voice was calm and steady, but every word carried the weight of iron. This is Admiral Jake Morrison of Earth. We have received your ultimatum. Here is our response. He paused, letting the silence stretch. Earth does not kneel. Earth does not surrender. Earth does not bow to any empire, no matter how large. If you want our world, alien, then come and take it. But know this, we will not go quietly into the darkness. We will fight, we will resist. And if we must die, we will take as many of you with us as we can. He nodded to his officer, who cut the transmission. Hayes looked at him with something like awe. Admiral, you just declared war on an empire that spans the galaxy. Morrison sat down in his command chair for the first time since the crisis began. Captain Hayes, in 7 days, we're either going to be free or we're going to be dead. Either way, they'll know they fought humans. Outside the ship, space remained dark and cold. But somewhere beyond Pluto, 7,000 alien ships waited. And at the heart of the solar system, the sun burned on, unaware that it was about to become the greatest weapon humanity had ever wielded. Commander Vortek of the Imperial First Fleet watched the human transmission with amusement. The small primate had actually threatened the Empire. Him, a species that had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. Amusing, Vortek said to his bridge crew. His voice rumbled like distant thunder. The humans think they can resist. Show them what happens to those who defy the Empire. On the command deck of his massive dreadnought, Vortek pointed one clawed finger at the tactical display. Target their outer colonies, Europa and Ganymede. Use minimal power. We want them to understand, not to create debris fields. The weapons officer, a scaled being with 4 arms, worked at his console. Targets locked, Commander. Particle beams charged to 30%. Fire. 2 beams of pure energy lanced out across space. They traveled faster than light, bending space around them. The first beam struck Europa's mining station. The entire facility, home to 12,000 humans, simply vanished. Not destroyed. Not exploded. Vanished, as if it had never existed. The second beam hit Ganymede's research complex. 30,000 people worked there, studying ways to terraform other worlds. They had 3 seconds to see the beam coming. Then they too were gone, leaving only empty space where their home had been. On Earth, Admiral Morrison watched the destruction through long-range sensors. His hands gripped the armrests of his chair until his knuckles went white. 42,000 people. Gone in an instant. Admiral, Captain Hayes said quietly. I'm sorry. Morrison closed his eyes. He had known those people, had visited those stations, had eaten dinner with some of their commanders. Now they were atoms scattered in the cold vacuum of space. Get me the Global Defense Council, Morrison said. Emergency meeting, and contact Colonel Sam Carter. I want every available ship moved to Earth defense positions. 3 hours later, Morrison stood in the war room deep beneath New York. Around the table sat the most powerful people on Earth. President Webb looked like he had aged 10 years in one day. General Patricia Stone, head of Earth's ground forces, stared at reports of the colony destruction. Dr. Kevin Ross sat with a pile of equations and star charts. They killed 42,000 people to make a point, Morrison said. This is what we're dealing with. An enemy that destroys entire colonies like we might step on insects. General Stone leaned forward. Admiral, we need more time. Our weapons can't even scratch their shields. We need months, maybe years, to develop countermeasures. We have 5 days, President Webb said quietly. Less now. Dr. Ross looked up from his papers. His eyes were red from lack of sleep, but they burned with determination. The solar hammer can work. My team has run the calculations 100 times. We can trigger controlled solar flares using gravitational pulse technology. General Stone shook her head. Kevin, you're talking about playing with the sun, our sun. If something goes wrong, if we do nothing, we all die anyway, Ross replied. At least this way we have a chance. Morrison studied the star charts Ross had spread on the table. Doctor, explain how this works, in simple terms. Ross picked up a pen and drew circles on a piece of paper. The sun is basically a giant ball of fire held together by gravity. It has magnetic field lines running through it, like invisible wires. When these field lines get twisted or broken, they release energy. Solar flares. He drew arrows pointing outward from his sun drawing. We've built 12 hidden stations throughout the inner solar system. Each one can fire a focused gravitational pulse. If we fire them all at the same time at exactly the right spots on the sun, we can break the magnetic field lines on purpose. Creating a solar flare, Morrison said. Not just any solar flare. A directed solar flare. We can aim it like a gun. The energy would be enormous. Enough to melt planets. President Webb rubbed his temples. The risks? The gravitational pulses might affect Earth's orbit. The solar flare might be larger than calculated. The magnetic field disruption might damage our electronics. Ross paused. Or it might work perfectly and give us the weapon we need to fight back. Morrison looked around the table. Opinions? General Stone spoke first. It's suicide. We're talking about weaponizing our own star. If we miscalculate, we destroy ourselves. If we surrender, we become slaves, Morrison replied. If we do nothing, we die. At least this way, we die fighting. Dr. Ross gathered his papers. There's something else. The AI system Atlas has been helping with calculations. It says the plan will work, but only if we get the alien fleet in exactly the right position. How do we do that? Webb asked. Morrison smiled grimly. We make them angry, really angry. Angry enough to bring their entire fleet close to Earth for the killing blow. Colonel Sam Carter's voice came through the room's speakers. Admiral, I have a full fleet status report. Go ahead, Colonel. 847 ships ready for combat. I've positioned them in defensive formations around Earth. We're as ready as we can be. Morrison nodded. Colonel, I want you to prepare for something else. Operation Bait. Sir? We're going to attack their fleet. Not to win, to make them mad enough to come after us with everything they have. The room fell silent. General Stone stared at Morrison like he had lost his mind. Jake, that's not just suicide. That's elaborate suicide. No, Morrison said. That's war. Real war. We're not going to sit here and wait for them to destroy us piece by piece. We're going to make them come to us. All of them. Right where Dr. Ross needs them. President Webb stood up slowly. Admiral, you're asking me to authorize an attack that will almost certainly result in the destruction of our entire fleet. Yes, sir. But if Dr. Ross is right, their fleet won't survive either. Webb looked at each person around the table. All in favor? Dr. Ross raised his hand immediately. Morrison raised his. After a long moment, Colonel Carter's voice came through the speakers. "I'm in, Admiral." General Stone hesitated, then slowly raised her hand. "God help us all." "President." Webb raised his hand last. "Operation Solar Hammer is authorized. Dr. Ross, begin final preparations. Admiral Morrison, Colonel Carter, prepare the fleet for attack." As the meeting broke up, Morrison lingered behind with Dr. Ross. "Kevin, are you sure this will work?" Ross looked at his equations one more time. "Jake, I'm sure the math is correct. I'm sure the technology will function. But we're doing something that's never been done before. We're turning a star into a weapon. And if it doesn't work, then we'll have the shortest war in human history. But if it does work..." Ross smiled, for the first time in days. "If it does work, those aliens are going to learn that humans don't just fight back. We fight dirty." Morrison walked to the window that looked out over New York City. Millions of people going about their lives, not knowing that in 5 days they would either be free or dead. "Kevin," Morrison said without turning around, "when we fire that solar flare, how long until it reaches the alien fleet?" 18 minutes. The plasma will travel at about 30% of light speed." Morrison nodded. 18 minutes to change the course of human history. Or 18 minutes to end it, Ross replied quietly. Outside, the sun continued to shine, peacefully in the afternoon sky, unaware that it was about to become the greatest weapon ever created by human hands. 3 days later, the Battle of Earth began with humanity's desperate gamble. Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Valiant, watching his fleet spread out in attack formation. 847 human ships against 7,000 alien vessels. The numbers were so bad they were almost funny. "All ships report ready, Admiral," Captain Hayes said from her station. Her voice was steady, but Morrison could see her hand shaking slightly. "Colonel Carter, status on the bait operation?" Carter's voice came through the speakers from her ship, the UES Defiance. "Ready to make some noise, Admiral. My squadron will hit their forward scouts first." Morrison looked at the tactical display. The alien fleet hung in space like a dark cloud, their ships so large they blocked out stars. Commander Vortek had moved closer to Earth, probably planning to watch the destruction of humanity's pathetic fleet before finishing off the planet. "Perfect. Dr. Ross, are your stations ready?" Ross spoke from the Prometheus research station hidden in the asteroid belt. "All 12 gravitational pulse generators are online. Atlas has calculated the firing sequence. We just need the alien fleet in the right position." Morrison took a deep breath. "All ships, this is Admiral Morrison. Today we fight not just for Earth, but for the right of humanity to exist. We are outnumbered, we are outgunned, but we are not defeated. Attack formation. Engage the enemy." Human fleet moved forward. Their ships looked tiny compared to the alien vessels, like minnows swimming toward whales. But they moved with purpose and courage that made Morrison proud. Captain Danny Wright's destroyer, the UES Thunder, fired the first shot. His plasma torpedoes struck an alien cruiser's shields and simply disappeared, like raindrops hitting a mountain. The alien ship didn't even slow down. The alien response was immediate and devastating. Particle beams lanced out from dozens of ships. The UES Thunder tried to dodge, but the beam caught it amidships. Wright's ship simply ceased to exist, vaporized in an instant. "Danny's gone," Hayes whispered. Morrison watched more of his ships die. The UES Liberty lasted 15 seconds. The UES Freedom managed 30 seconds before an alien dreadnought turned it into glowing gas. Captain Julie Mason in the UES Courage managed to ram an alien destroyer, but her ship's explosion barely scratched the enemy's shields. "Admiral, we're losing ships too fast," Carter reported. Her own ship was dodging desperately between alien beams. "Their weapons are tearing us apart." "Hold position," Morrison ordered. "Make them come closer." Commander Vortek watched the human attack with amusement from his flagship. The small ships buzzed around his fleet like insects, their weapons completely useless against Imperial technology. "Pathetic," he told his weapons officer. "End this quickly, I grow bored." The alien fleet moved closer to Earth, their massive ships advancing in perfect formation. Vortek wanted to be close enough to watch the planet burn after he finished, destroying the human fleet. On the hidden Prometheus station, Dr. Ross watched his sensors with growing excitement. "They're moving into position," he told Morrison. "The entire alien fleet is clustering around Earth just like we hoped." Morrison looked at his tactical display. Half his fleet was already gone. The aliens were moving closer, preparing for the final strike. It was time. "Dr. Ross, fire the solar hammer." Firing now. 12 hidden stations throughout the inner solar system turned toward the sun. Each station was no bigger than a small building, invisible to normal sensors, powered by fusion reactors that had been secretly built over 5 years. The gravitational pulse generators fired simultaneously. 12 invisible beams of twisted space-time lanced toward the sun at the speed of light. They struck specific points on the star's surface that Dr. Ross and Atlas had calculated with perfect precision. For a moment, nothing happened. The sun continued to burn peacefully, 93 million miles away. Then the magnetic field lines inside the star began to twist and break. The sun's surface erupted. A coronal mass ejection exploded outward from the star, but this was unlike any natural solar flare. The gravitational pulses had shaped it, directed it, turned it into a weapon. A wall of superheated plasma, traveling at 100,000 miles per second, raced toward Earth and the alien fleet. The plasma contained the energy of 10,000 hydrogen bombs in every cubic foot. It was hot enough to melt planets, fast enough to cross the solar system in minutes, and aimed directly at the alien invasion force. Commander Vortek's first warning came when his sensors screamed alarms. "What is that?" he demanded. His science officer's voice was filled with terror. "Commander, it's a solar flare, but it's impossible. The energy readings are off our scales. It's aimed directly at us." Vortek stared at his main screen. A wall of fire filled space, racing toward his fleet faster than his ships could possibly escape. How did they do this? How did they weaponize their star? "Shields to maximum," he ordered desperately. "All power to defensive systems." It didn't matter. The plasma wave hit the alien fleet like the wrath of an angry god. Imperial shields designed to stop conventional weapons were useless against the fury of a star. The first ships to be engulfed simply vanished, their atoms scattered across space. Vortek's flagship, the Dominion's Edge, lasted 3 seconds longer than the smaller ships, long enough for him to understand that humanity had just done the impossible. They had turned their own sun into a weapon. Then his ship dissolved into component atoms, and Vortek learned what stellar fire felt like. From the bridge of the UES, valiant Admiral Morrison watched 5,000 alien ships die in 18 minutes. The plasma wave swept through the invasion fleet like fire through dry grass. Ships that had seemed invincible were consumed in seconds. Captain Hayes stared at the tactical display in shock. "Admiral, they're gone. The entire fleet. How many ships?" 5,237 confirmed destroyed, reported the sensor officer. 1,700 enemy ships retreating at maximum speed. Morrison sat down heavily in his command chair. They had done it. Humanity had won its first battle against the Empire. But the cost? "Our losses?" he asked quietly. Hayes checked her reports. 412 ships destroyed. 31,000 personnel killed in action. Morrison closed his eyes. 31,000 brave souls who had bought humanity its victory with their lives. They would be remembered. Every single one of them. "Colonel Carter, status report." Carter's voice was filled with amazement. "Admiral, we're alive. I can't believe we're actually alive. The alien survivors are running for the edge of the system, as fast as they can go." Dr. Ross's voice came through the speakers. "Admiral, the solar hammer worked perfectly. All systems are still operational. We can fire again if needed." Morrison looked at the sun on his screen. Their star burned peacefully, as if nothing had happened. As if it hadn't just destroyed the largest invasion fleet in galactic history. "Open a channel to the retreating alien ships," Morrison ordered. "Channel open, sir." Morrison stood up and faced the camera. When he spoke, his voice carried across space to the surviving Imperial ships, and his words would soon spread across the entire galaxy. "This is Admiral Jake Morrison of Earth. You came to our world demanding submission. We gave you fire instead. Tell your empire what happened here. Tell them that humanity does not surrender. Tell them that Earth is not afraid of their threats, and tell them this. If they send another fleet, we will feed it to our star just like we fed yours." He nodded to cut the transmission, then turned to Hayes. "Captain, take us home. We have a victory to report and heroes to honor." Outside, space was filled with the expanding glow of vaporized alien ships. The Empire had demanded submission. Earth had answered with Inferno. And for the first time in 3,000 years, the hegemony Empire had tasted defeat. News of the Imperial defeat spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On Drakmor Prime, the capital world of the hegemony Empire, High Counselor Drex Morin read the battle reports with growing horror. 5,000 ships, he said to his council chamber, his voice echoing off the crystal walls. 5,000 ships destroyed by primitives who barely knew space travel existed 6 months ago. The other council members sat in stunned silence. The Empire had not lost a major battle in over 1,000 years. Now a species they had never heard of had wiped out their largest invasion fleet. "How?" asked Counselor Yethran, her scaled hands trembling. "How did they weaponize a star?" "It does not matter how," Drexmorin replied. "What matters is that they did. And if they can do it once, they can do it again." He stood and walked to the great window that looked out over the capital city. Millions of beings from hundreds of worlds went about their daily lives, unaware that everything had changed. "Deploy the planet killers," Drexmorin ordered. "All of them. This human infestation ends now." Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Morrison was not waiting for the Empire's next move. In the 3 months since the Battle of Earth, humanity had been busy. Very busy. "The new ships are ready, Admiral," Captain Hayes reported from the bridge of the UES Retribution. The ship was twice the size of the old Valiant and packed with technology reverse-engineered from alien wreckage. Morrison nodded. Around Earth, the largest fleet in human history was assembling. Over 2,000 ships, all equipped with captured Imperial technology and something the aliens had never seen before: portable stellar manipulators. "Dr. Ross, status on the new weapons?" Ross appeared on the main screen from his laboratory. He looked tired, but excited. "The portable units are operational, Admiral. Each ship can now trigger solar flares in any star system. We've essentially turned every star in the galaxy into a potential weapon." Colonel Sam Carter, now promoted to general, spoke from her flagship. "Admiral, my strike force is ready to move. Intelligence reports indicate major Imperial supply depots in the Kepler 442 system." Morrison studied the star charts. After the defeat at Earth, surviving Imperial forces had retreated to regroup, but they had left behind supply lines, communication stations, and isolated outposts. Perfect targets for humanity's new offensive strategy. "General Carter, you are authorized to begin Operation Prometheus. Show the Empire what humans can do when we stop playing defense." Carter's strike force of 300 ships jumped to hyperspace, their destination, a red dwarf star system 60 light-years from Earth. The Imperial supply convoy had no idea what was coming. The attack on Kepler 442 lasted exactly 47 minutes. General Carter's ships dropped out of hyperspace on the one edge of the system. The Imperial convoy, 50 cargo vessels protected by 12 warships, immediately moved to attack positions. "They think we're easy prey," Carter told her fleet commanders. "Let's show them how wrong they are." Instead of engaging the Imperial ships directly, Carter ordered her vessels to target the system's red dwarf star. 12 ships fired their portable stellar manipulators simultaneously. The red dwarf, normally a quiet and stable star, suddenly erupted in fury. A directed solar flare lanced out toward the Imperial convoy, moving at incredible speed. The alien ships tried to run, but red dwarf flares move faster than most Imperial vessels could travel. The plasma wave caught the entire convoy in open space. "Convoy destroyed," reported Carter's sensor officer. "No survivors. The supply depot on the third planet is also gone." Carter smiled grimly. Signal the fleet. Next target is the Wolf 359 research station. Let's keep this momentum going. Back on Drakmor Prime, the reports of defeats were piling up on Drexmoran's desk. Kepler 442, Wolf 359, Tau Ceti, Barnard Star. Everywhere Imperial forces gathered, human ships appeared and turned local stars into weapons. They are not fighting like civilized beings, complained Counselor Vextor. They are fighting like animals, like barbarians. No, said Drexmoran quietly. They are fighting like something we have never encountered before. They are fighting like a species that refuses to die. His aide, a young reptilian named Kolvas, brought him another report. Hi, Counselor. The humans have captured our research station at Wolf 359. They have stolen the plans for our planet killer weapons. Drexmoran's blood turned cold. The planet killers were the Empire's most secret weapons, ships designed to crack planets like eggs. If the humans knew about them, send word to all Imperial forces, he ordered. Full withdrawal to the core systems. Bring every ship back to Drakmor Prime. We make our stand here. On Earth, Admiral Morrison read the captured Imperial plans with growing concern. Planet killers. Weapons designed to destroy entire worlds. The Empire was preparing for a final battle. How many do they have? He asked Dr. Ross. According to these plans, 12 planet killers, each one capable of destroying a planet the size of Earth. Morrison walked to his office window and looked up at the night sky. Somewhere out there, the Empire was gathering its forces for one last desperate attack. Kevin, can our solar hammer work on binary star systems? Ross looked up from the captured data. Binary systems? Jake, that would be incredibly dangerous. 2 stars instead of 1 means twice the energy output. If we triggered them both, how much energy are we talking about? Enough to sterilize every planet in a dozen star systems, maybe more. Morrison nodded slowly. The Empire's capital is in a binary system, isn't it? Yes. Drakmor Prime orbits between 2 yellow stars. But Jake, if we trigger both stars to go supernova, we're not just destroying their capital. We're committing genocide on a scale that makes their planet killers look like firecrackers. Morrison was quiet for a long time. Outside his window, he could see the lights of New York City. 8 billion people who trusted him to keep them safe. 8 billion people who would die if the Empire's planet killers reached Earth. How long would it take to modify our solar hammer for a binary system? 3 weeks, maybe 4. Do it. Morrison turned back to Ross. And Kevin, make sure it works perfectly. We're only going to get one chance at this. Lieutenant Commander Tony Blake had been promoted to captain after the Wolf 359 raid. Now he commanded his own ship, the UES Vengeance, and had a special mission. Captain Blake, Morrison said over the secure channel, I need you to take a small force to the Proxima Centauri system. Scout the Empire's positions there. But more importantly, I need you to test something. What kind of test, Admiral? I need to know if we can trigger a solar flare in a star system and have the plasma wave reach targets in a neighboring system. Blake was quiet for a moment. Admiral, are you asking if we can use one star to attack ships around a different star? That's exactly what I'm asking. Sir, the distances involved. We're talking about interstellar weapons, plasma waves that could cross light years of space. Can it be done? Blake looked at his own star charts. It would take years for the plasma to reach another star system. But yes, theoretically it could work. Morrison smiled. Then start working on more than theory, Captain. I want to turn entire regions of space into weapons. Across the galaxy, the Empire continued its retreat. But they were not running in fear. They were gathering every ship, every weapon, every soldier, for one final battle. High Counselor Drexmoran stood in his war room, surrounded by tactical displays showing the positions of his remaining forces. Over 50,000 ships, the largest fleet in Imperial history. The humans think they have won, he told his assembled commanders. They think their star weapons make them invincible. They are wrong. When we attack their homeworld with planet killers, their precious star will not save them. But deep in space, human ships were already moving. Admiral Morrison had not waited for the Empire to attack. Operation Prometheus was entering its final phase. The hunter had become the hunted, and humanity was about to teach the galaxy's greatest empire what real fear looked like. 6 months after the Battle of Earth, the largest fleet in human history arrived at Drakmor Prime. Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, looking at the enemy homeworld that hung in space between two yellow suns. "Sensor, report," Morrison ordered. Captain Hayes read from her station. 53,000 Imperial ships in defensive formation around the planet. 12 planet killers positioned in the outer system. They're ready for us, Admiral. Morrison nodded. He had expected this. The Empire had gathered every ship they could find to protect their capital world. It was the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. Our numbers? 3,000 ships, all equipped with stellar manipulation technology. Dr. Ross reports. The binary star system weapon is ready. Morrison looked at the tactical display. The numbers were still terrible. 53,000 enemy ships against 3,000 human vessels. But this time humanity had something the Empire had never faced before. Open a channel to the Imperial fleet. Channel open, Admiral. Morrison straightened his uniform and looked directly into the camera. This is Admiral Jake Morrison of the Human Space Forces. I wish to speak with your leader. A few minutes later, the face of High Counselor Drex Morin appeared on the screen. The alien leader looked older than before, his golden scales dulled with worry. Human, Drex Morin said, you have come far from your little world, but this is where your species ends. My planet killers will destroy every human world in the galaxy. Your planet killers are impressive, Morrison replied calmly. But they have one weakness. What weakness? Morrison smiled. They need stars to power them. And we control the stars now. Drex Morin's eyes widened in understanding. You would not dare. This system contains billions of innocent lives. Civilians who have never harmed your species. You gave us 7 days to surrender or face extinction, Morrison said. You destroyed our colonies to make a point. You sent planet killers to murder every human in the galaxy. Now you talk about innocent lives? Morrison leaned forward. Here is my offer, Counselor. You have 1 hour to surrender unconditionally. Disband your military, submit to human authority, or watch your empire burn in stellar fire. Never. Drex Morin snarled. The Empire does not bow to primitives. Attack formations. Destroy the human fleet. The screen went black. Morrison turned to his crew. Dr. Ross, begin final preparations for the binary star weapon. All ships, prepare for battle. The Imperial fleet moved first. 53,000 ships advanced in perfect formation, their weapons charging. The 12 planet killers moved toward the edge of the system, preparing to jump to hyperspace and destroy Earth. They're trying to get the planet killers away from the star system, Hayes reported. If they escape, they can destroy our colonies. Morrison made a decision that would change galactic history. All ships, target the planet killers. Ignore the main fleet. We cannot let those weapons escape. The human fleet split into hunting groups, each one chasing a planet killer. The massive Imperial weapons were fast, but human ships were faster and more maneuverable. Captain Tony Blake, in the UES Vengeance, caught the first planet killer near the system's edge. Targeting their engines, he reported, firing stellar manipulator. Blake's ship fired at the nearby star, triggering a small but focused solar flare. The plasma stream struck the planet killer's engines, crippling the massive weapon. Planet Killer 1 disabled, Blake reported. Moving to Target 2. Across the system, similar battles were taking place. Human ships darted between Imperial vessels using their stellar weapons to disable the planet killers one by one. But the main Imperial fleet was closing in. Morrison watched as enemy ships surrounded his forces. Particle beams lanced out, destroying human vessels. The UES Thunder exploded in a ball of fire. The UES Liberty followed seconds later. Admiral, we're losing ships fast, Hayes reported. The Imperial fleet is too large. Morrison looked at the tactical display. Half his fleet was gone. but 11 of the 12 planet killers were destroyed or disabled. Only one remained, and it was almost at the edge of the system. Dr. Ross, how long until the binary weapon is ready? 30 seconds, Admiral. But Jake, if we fire this, everyone in the system dies. Our ships, their ships, the entire planet. Morrison closed his eyes. Billions of innocent lives on Drakmor Prime. His own people still fighting in the system. But if that last planet killer escaped, it would destroy Earth and every human colony. Fire the weapon. Jake, there has to be another way. Fire the weapon, Kevin, that's an order. On the hidden research station, Dr. Ross activated the binary star system weapon. Every stellar manipulator in the human fleet turned toward the two yellow suns that lit Drakmor Prime. The gravitational pulse beam struck both stars simultaneously. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the magnetic field lines in both stars began to break and twist. The binary stars erupted together. Two massive coronal ejections exploded outward, but these were not ordinary solar flares. The gravitational manipulation had synchronized the two stars, creating a resonance effect that amplified their power beyond all calculation. The plasma waves from both stars met in the space between them, combining into a wall of fire that filled the entire system. The energy was so intense it bent light around it, creating a sphere of destruction that consumed everything. The Imperial fleet died first. 53,000 ships simply vanished as stellar fire washed over them. The planet killers melted, like ice in a furnace. Drakmor Prime itself was stripped of its atmosphere in seconds, its surface turned to molten rock. Morrison watched his tactical display as the plasma wave approached his own fleet. All hands, it has been an honor to serve, with you. But then something impossible happened. The plasma wave split around the human ships, flowing past them like water around stones. The stellar manipulators on each ship were creating localized gravitational fields that deflected the plasma. What's happening? Hayes shouted over the roar of energy passing outside their hull. Dr. Ross's voice came through the speakers, filled with amazement. The AI, Atlas, modified the gravitational fields automatically. It's protecting our ships while letting the plasma pass through. Morrison stared in wonder as the wall of fire swept past his fleet, consuming everything else in the system. The binary stars had become a weapon of unimaginable power, but humanity had learned to survive in the heart of stellar fire. When the plasma wave finally faded, the Drakmor system was empty, except for the human fleet. The capital world was gone. The Imperial fleet was gone. The planet killers were gone. Admiral, Hayes said quietly, we're receiving a transmission from the remaining Imperial forces throughout the galaxy. Put it through. An elderly alien appeared. On screen, his scales gray with age. I am Emperor Gex Turan, ruler of what remains of the Hegemony Empire. Human Admiral, we surrender. Please, no more stars, no more fire. We surrender. Morrison looked at the Emperor who had ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years. Now he was begging for mercy from a species he had tried to destroy. Your terms are the same as the ones you offered us, Morrison said. Unconditional surrender. Disband your military. Submit to human authority. Your empire becomes a protectorate of Earth. We accept, the Emperor said quickly. All Imperial forces will stand down immediately. We submit to human rule. Morrison turned to Hayes. Captain, signal the fleet, we're going home. Home, sir? Morrison looked at the space where Drakmor Prime had been. Yes, home to Earth. The galaxy has new rulers now. As the human fleet prepared to jump to hyperspace, Morrison made one final transmission to the remaining Imperial worlds. This is Admiral Jake Morrison. The war is over. The Hegemony Empire has surrendered. Any world that wishes to join the new Galactic Order under human leadership is welcome. Any world that chooses to resist will learn what happened here today. He paused, looking out at the binary stars that still burned peacefully after being turned into the ultimate weapon. The Empire demanded our submission. We answered with Inferno. Remember that. When you tell your children about the day the galaxy changed hands. The human fleet jumped to hyperspace, leaving behind an empty star system and the ashes of the greatest empire in galactic history. Humanity had gone from a single world to the rulers of the galaxy in less than a year. They had done it with fire. They had done it with fury. They had done it with the power of stars themselves. And across the galaxy, 1 billion worlds learned a simple truth. When you threaten humanity's survival, you don't just face human weapons, you face human ingenuity, human determination, human refusal to surrender. You face the species that turned stars into weapons and wrote their victory in stellar fire across the cosmos. The age of the Empire was over. The age of humanity had begun.